Namely, if anybody out there is a college football fan, my Buckeyes are in the national championship, so suck it. But anyways, let's get into the nerd stuff here. It is, obviously, as I said, the first show I am doing of 2015. So I'm going to take an opportunity to look ahead at as we stand at the beginning of what is hopefully a happy and good year, and will most certainly be an excellent year for the nerd community. If you look at all the movies we have coming out, awesome comic book series starting this year, it's going to be fantastic. If nothing else, Star Wars, Avengers, it's going to be an absolutely huge year. So what I decided to do is I decided to make a list of my top 10 things I'm looking forward to in 2015. These are the 10 most awesome things that I'm so excited for. The 10 things I am the most excited for looking ahead to the rest of 2015. And I'm going to start, as you'd imagine, at number 10. At number 10, I put The Fantastic Four. That's going to be in theaters August 7th. It made 10, just barely. It made 10 on a love of the Fantastic Four in general, from the comics, the characters themselves. If I'm being entirely honest, I have absolutely little to no optimism about this movie, but I'm hoping to be proved wrong, because the last movie, the last series they did with Michael Chiklis and all them and whatever, and Jessica Alba. The first one was all right. It was a good enough movie. It was fine. And the second one was absolute garbage. So you'd have to think another movie would it just be more of the same, the way that if they, tried to do it a more traditional way. So obviously they're taking a lot of liberties here. From a casting standpoint, it's pretty obvious. They cast Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch, who is obviously African American. So that caused a lot of controversy, whether you feel, however you feel about that. It was a controversial decision, to say the least. They've made them all younger. Like, Mr. Fantastic is in his early 20s now, if even. And the guy who plays him looks like he's friggin' 17. I don't even know. Miles Teller. I'm not super optimistic. Like I said, the biggest thing that got me was, and this was all over the internet, was Doom. Their biggest change is Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is one of my favorite villains of all time. I've been clamoring for a Doctor Doom ongoing series from Marvel Comics for a while now, and I fingers crossed that it could still happen. Doom's, like I said, one of my favorites, but they're making him younger, as they are with everybody. They're scaling back his age. Doom is a ruthless dictator of the fictional country of Latveria. Well, they decided to take that and just take a dump on it. Now he is, I guess, like an internet troll. He's a blogger type, and Doom is going to be his handle, almost like his Reddit username, user Doom, and his last name is going to be Domashev. I had no problem with that. I get that Doom is a pretty odd last name for someone to have. I just don't like the idea of taking this guy who was this big bad, dictator, larger than life villain, and bringing him down to, he has to be more realistic. But he's not realistic. He's not. So we'll see how that works out. Number 9 on the TV side of things, coming to Stars, release date to be determined. I have Ash versus Evil Dead. They're turning the old movie series into a TV show now, and it is starring Bruce Campbell. Horror fans have all the reason in the world to be excited. I'm a big horror movie fan, and there's not necessarily a huge wave of horror movies coming out. We'll get there later in the year, and we'll see what's coming when and everything. But Ash versus Evil Dead, that's exciting. That's number 9 on my list. Number 8, video games. Now I have Mortal Kombat X coming April 14th. I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan, going all the way back to old arcade style, all the way up to what they're doing now, which is just awesome. The new game, it's supposed to be 10 years or something, or more than that, some years in the future. So now we've got some characters are older, and some characters it's their kids. Like, for anyone who knows from the old games, Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade, like, they had a daughter, and her name's something Cage, I don't remember, but so now her daughter's in it. It's like combining moves from him and moves from her. So it's it's a really interesting concept, and it's going to be a fun game. I always get hyped about Mortal Kombat. So again, that's Mortal Kombat X coming April 14th. Number 7, the first movie I guess the Fantastic Four is technically a movie. The second movie to make a list, Jurassic World, coming June 12th. That's 2 days before my birthday. Maybe I'll go see it on my birthday. Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard. talked about it before on the podcast. Obviously, Jurassic Park, awesome series, total nostalgia, childhood fun, and now it's even bigger with better special effects. Because I was just not too long ago, just a few years ago, I was with some friends, and Jurassic Park 3 had come on, or no, it was Jurassic Park 2, I believe. We put it on, and it didn't even look real anymore. I mean, we're spoiled now with the special effects we live in, the post-Avatar era that we're in. The special effects, they were awful. They were awful. It looked like Shrek just running around with Vince Vaughn. Just Vince Vaughn running around with Shrek. That was the whole movie. Number 6, I have a video game again. I grouped 2 video games together here. I have Legend of Zelda 2015, tentative title, and Majora's Mask 3D. Legend of Zelda 2015 is to be determined sometime this year. Majora's Mask coming out in spring. First on Majora's Mask 3D. Majora's Mask, best Zelda game, period. I don't care what you say. I'll punch you right in the mouth. Majora's Mask, best Legend of Zelda game. And they're finally doing what they did with Ocarina of Time, which is making it 3D and bringing it on the handhelds. Now, I am a total loser. I have a 2DS. For anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's like how a 3DS is cool and like folds and stuff. This one doesn't. It's a great way to just show people you're an idiot just by taking it out of your pocket. But you know what? It was $70 cheaper than a 3DS, so I don't even regret it. But anyways, so I can play Majora's Mask on the go on my handheld. And I grouped it in with it, the new Legend of Zelda coming out in 2015. This is looking like Legend of Zelda meets Skyrim with the scope of everything from the small amount of footage they've shown. But they said it's coming out 2015. Also, Star Fox coming out 2015, but that didn't make my list per se. I didn't put a lot of things, by the way, also that are coming up now within the next couple of. I'm excited about the new Agent Carter, but that's coming Tuesday, and more on that probably later. I'm excited about Walking Dead coming back, stuff like that. I didn't put stuff that's returning, but anyway, so yeah, Legend of Zelda 2015. The little bit of footage they've shown, it's kind of cool. You're riding Epona the horse, and it's easier to ride a horse now. Like, you can just go through the woods, and your horse will like weave around the trees for you, which is a really interesting point because I never thought about it. Is like, there's too many times in video games where you get on a horse or something, and you can just ride straight into a wall. And it's like, why would the horse let you do that? But oh well. Anyway, so yeah, that's Legend of Zelda. Again, no title yet. Legend of Zelda 2015, tentative title. Number 5, that's going to be Ant-Man, July 17th. Ant-Man, I'm so pumped for this. Ant-Man's one of my favorite characters. Top 10, I would say. I always thought it was a really interesting power set that's never really been explored enough. So I'm really excited to see that he's finally coming to that the movie's finally happening after all these years. Not even the director that started it, which, I mean, that's a whole thing. Obviously, if you don't know, Edgar Wright was supposed to direct Ant-Man, supposed to write and direct it for the last, 8 years, I want to say. He was attached to do this movie before Iron Man, and he could have made this movie before Iron Man, but he waited. And now that he was actually going to make it now, it's part of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so there's all these restrictions and sort of connections to other movies, which I could see how that could be frustrating as a filmmaker, that you just want to make the movie you want to make, but you've got all these outside other movies affecting your movie. But at the same time, you had the opportunity to be the one affecting the other movies. You could have come out before Iron Man. You could have started the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you didn't. You waited too long, and they built a world that now you have to try to fit into. So goodbye, Edgar Wright. You're a fun director, but and it would have been interesting to see what Edgar Wright's Ant-Man would have been. But I like Peyton Reed, the guy that got to replace him. He's a hardcore fan, which I'm excited about. He's a comedy guy brought in to do this, who's a big fan of the character, and that to me is exactly the resume of the Russo brothers. Let's not forget, the Russo brothers directed maybe the best comic book movie of all time, I'll say it, in Captain America: Winter Soldier. And they also directed You, Me, and Dupree. So that's all you need to know about resumes coming into these superhero movies. I mean, if you love the character, it'll show through in your work. Again, that's Ant-Man, and that's July 17th. And again, another thing I love about this with the MCU stuff is now it's going to bring Ant-Man to such a bigger forefront with everything else. I'll talk about it a little later. Ant-Man #1. A brand new comic series ongoing is coming out here on Wednesday. And we have the Ant-Man trailer fully debuting on Tuesday during Agent Carter. That's going to be awesome. Number 4, I have Daredevil. Daredevil is my favorite superhero, and they're finally making a new series for him on Netflix. That's going to be coming out in May. I've heard May 1st, but nothing solid on that, so we just know May as it stands right now. I've talked about the series before. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited to see what they do with it, and I'm just so desperate right now to see what he's going to look like in that classic red Daredevil suit. Right now, they've only shown him in that black suit that he has in the Man Without Fear run that Frank Miller had. But they said the red suit is coming, and I'm very excited to see it and how this is going to set up the Defenders saga on Netflix. And what a perfect venue to do this. If this is done well, then once again they've changed the game. Number 3, I have the only comic book making this list, which is the irony is not lost to me that this is called the Comic Book Nerd, and there's only one on the list. It is Secret Wars, and it is coming in May, and it is the largest event in the comic book world in quite some time. Obviously, the Marvel Universe has been headed to it. Jonathan Hickman writing it, one of my favorite writers in the comic book world right now. And he's been working for years, really. Everything Hickman's done at Marvel has led up to this, and it is the possible destruction of multiple universes. This is a scale that they've never had before, and there's so many rumors about what might be happening. I'm hearing the latest is that every Marvel series could be ending or pausing during this event, and every series is sort of going to tie in with it. It's going to be, every series is set to tie in with it, so it's a whole cross platform thing. It's going to be across all the comics. It's going to be absolutely insane for the Marvel Universe, and that's Secret Wars. And it is also Secret Wars number 1 is going to be the free comic book on Free Comic Book Day, which is May 2nd. More on that, obviously, as we get closer to it. Number 2, I have Avengers: Age of Ultron. Avengers, one of the funnest movies I've ever seen. I was it's so weird because it still lives up to all my standards today. It's so much hype for Avengers. Normally when a movie gets that much hype, when you hype it up that much to yourself, once it finally gets here, you're like, well, it was good, but this part was a little disappointing, or I could have used some of this, whatever. No, I was entirely satisfied after Avengers. Set up Thanos at the end, moving forward, and everybody was badass. I mean, Cap's suit was a little weird, but it was like, I was okay with it at the time, and now, obviously, since they've changed it, they've absolutely perfected it. At number 1, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. It's time to become a kid again. Star Wars is back, and it looks like it's back to its roots, and anybody who saw that trailer and was disappointed, you're just a grumpy old curmudgeon, because that was some damn good fun. I show my 1-year-old nephew, I've shown the trailer, and he loves it. Every time he sees it, he gets so excited, especially when that John Williams score kicks in and the Millennium Falcon swoops down. He loves it. It's going to be fun for all ages, and it's going to be awesome, and I could not be more excited. The number 1 thing I am looking forward to in 2015, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and that is due out December 18th, and it can't get here soon enough. All right, well, that's it for the list. So while I was off on break, or whatever you want to call it, while I wasn't on last week, Marvel's latest event, Axis, has wrapped up, and I decided to go on some various subreddits and talk to the fans and see what people had to say about what they thought about it, and I thought I'd share my thoughts on the event. If you didn't catch the event, how do I put this delicately? I almost wouldn't go back and bother, especially based off some of these opinions I have here. The whole basis of the event, I'm going to do it totally abridged, but the basis of it was the Red Skull with part of Professor X's brain in his own, so he has his telepathy mutant powers. He turns into he turns into the Red Onslaught, this giant monster, and in order to stop him, a couple of the heroes and characters, whatever, they did some sort of spell that was supposed to turn the polarity and basically bring out the Professor X in him. And instead, what it did is it hit everybody because he was broadcasting over his psychic wavelengths or something. It hit everybody that was at this battle, and it inverted everyone, turned good guys bad, bad guys good, and just again, totally abridged version of it. Just hitting the bullet points. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, they end up finding out Magneto's not their father through a series of events. Doom ends up reviving. He revives two different characters from the dead. Cassie Lang, which is Scott Lang, Ant-Man's daughter, went by the name Stature with the Young Avengers. She's back to life, and she's returned to Scott Lang. I'm certain we'll see more of that in his ongoing series, which again comes Wednesday. We had Carnage. Carnage is a little confusing because Carnage obviously turned good. Then he sacrificed himself to blow up this bomb. But then in the latest issue of Nova, he is apparently, at least appears to be, a psychopath and on his way to visit Sam Alexander. So I don't know if maybe that's bad editing or something, but I we'll see what happens with that. Maybe it will be explained. But a lot of people liked Carnage in it. The big changes, though, coming towards the end, when we get three characters. Eventually, they switch back the inversions. We have three characters that don't get switched back. We have Iron Man, who is still basically a dick, and that is why he continues to have his series Superior Iron Man, which is just awesome right now. I highly recommend it. We also have Sabretooth. Sabretooth has not been switched back. Sabretooth now regrets all the murders he's done over the years and feels like he wants to make it up to the image of his old enemy, Wolverine. He says he's gonna, fight to be a good person and all that. Sabretooth is now a good guy. Welcome to the team. And then the weird one was Havoc, which is Alex Summers, Cyclops' brother. Havoc was not changed back. And it's really confusing now because he seems to be very anti-human now, I guess, due to the inversion. At the end, it actually shows him teaming up with going over to Scott Summers, Cyclops' X-Men team. And it's weird because the thinking is now he's evil, and then that almost makes it seem like Cyclops' team is evil, because I feel like Marvel as a whole, they like to crap on Cyclops a little bit. But anyways, so they're together now, and whatever should happen with that. But again, three characters, obviously, that didn't get changed back. That's the big fallout from the series. There's also going to be a new Uncanny Avengers team coming, and that'll be later this month. I want to say the 28th, if I'm not mistaken, if that's a Wednesday. Uncanny Avengers #1 by Rick Remender. That's something I'm really excited about. It's an interesting team. You have Sabretooth, obviously now a good guy. You have, I left out the other guy that Doctor Doom brought back from the dead, which is Brother Voodoo. So you've got Sabretooth, Brother Voodoo, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Rogue, Quicksilver, the all-new Captain America, Sam Wilson. Really cool team, really interesting team. It's going to be fun to see how that ends up panning out as the Avengers Unity Squad, part mutant, part Avenger, all together in the name of peace. But anyways, here's I thought Axis was pretty forgettable, and I hope, at least until Secret Wars, we see a little more emphasis on some solo runs and some solo characters and getting some of that done. I would not mind if we just sort of cool it on the events until we end up getting to until we get to Secret Wars, especially because Secret Wars is going to be a year-long event. So, anyways, this is what some people on Reddit thought of it. Again, a lot of the points I made. This is users SVT Blackie says he liked Carnage as a hero, disliked that Carnage died. He says, I enjoyed how he died, but I liked that what they were doing with his character, and I wish he dodged being reinverted. So we'll see how that pans out. Anyways, this is a good point. User HRAE Svelg7 says, I hate the whole heroes, villains, good, evil axis. He says, one of Marvel's strength has long been the gray area. Characters are more complex than simple good guy versus bad guy. Granted, Carnage is pretty much as bad as people can get, but Deadpool, Scarlet Witch, Thor, Iron Man, etc. have explored different motives and actions that are morally ambiguous, and that's what I enjoy. Reducing it to heroes are evil and villains are good just feels lazy. That said, I love Superior Iron Man. It feels like that could have been a story arc without Axis ever happening. Good point. This is honest. This is user Shin Cole. He says, honest and short opinion, book 1 was wonky but slow getting there. Book 2 was absolutely great. Book 3 was a big pile of dog shit, his words again. I still love Remender, but this was absolutely terrible. Maybe due to editorial, but I couldn't know. And this motherfucker called user Shin Cole has every tie-in. Frowny face. He says, edit Hobgoblin was fun though. Hobgoblin was fun. Hobgoblin was an awesome series. Now he's a good guy, and he's he was at Roderick Kingsley, the Hobgoblin, was at a point with his character where he was selling villain identities and costumes and weapons and stuff like that, and leasing, like renting them out to people. And now he starts doing that with heroes, and he's training people to be good guys, and he's doing these. They called him they called him Ned Talks instead of TED Talks, and it was him out there talking at stages and all theatrics and stuff. It was really fun. That's a fun little miniseries. You don't even need to read Axis to read 1 through 3 of Hobgoblin. I think they're actually doing a collected edition of Axis Hobgoblin 1 through 3 and Axis Carnage 1 through 3. And I would honestly buy those. So keep a lookout for that. And this is a great point. This is user Stratofarius. That's interesting. Said, why would you make all new Cap's first story be one where he acts like the king of dicks? That is a wonderful point. Sam Wilson has just taken over as Captain America, and the very first thing you have him do is turn into an asshole and start beating up mutants. It doesn't make any sense, and it's not the best start for the legacy of the all-new Captain America. User Asder, that is specifically made not to be able to read. He says, I love Carnage, Goblin, and Superior Iron Man, but the whole event is meh. That's basically the sentiment I was giving as well. User Zagmet says, man, Red Skull's Mutant Death Camp was such a great hook. Why did it have to go so wrong? Again, you see, people did not. Now here, well, I'll be fair. User J Combs 15 says, I liked it. I liked the inverted Avengers team and the X-Men team. I liked the Carnage, Havoc, Sabretooth, and Iron Man stuff. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Hey, that's a C. That's good enough, I guess. User Drunk Wookie says, best thing to happen from Axis, Superior, Iron Man. And user, again, that's just random letters, said it would have been a good 4-issue arc in Uncanny Avengers. Sabretooth and Iron Man remaining inverted is neat. Havoc, not so much. So as you can see, it's, I guess, a pretty forgettable event. It didn't seem necessary, but it was some interesting things happened to some interesting characters, and I think the most exciting part about Axis is the fallout from it. What's going to happen now? Now we have Magneto wondering who tricked him. Why was he lied to about having these children? And then Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who's their real father? There's so much of their life to discover. Again, a lot of people feeling like they're about to find out they're Inhumans. I'll wait to see about that, because it's, you know what, I'll talk about that for a second. That was a big thing in all this that not a lot of people were a fan of, and I can't see there's any reason to like it per se, but I think people are a little upset, maybe overly so sometimes, about it. If you look into the history of Magneto and the whole mystery surrounding their parents, Magneto wasn't even originally their father. Originally, it was supposed to be 2 members of the Invaders from the World War II, was Miss America and Whizzer. But eventually they changed that to make it so, well, they're not really the parents. They're the real parents of these nobodies. And then they changed it to, oh, well, the real father is Magneto. But even that, if you really look back, they left it ambiguous. I mean, they said Magneto's their father, but they really, it was open for that not to even be true. That all someone would have to do is a one simple little lie, and it could clear it, and it could make that so that's not the case. So I'm not super opposed to it, and here's the thing though, what I understand about the state of Marvel Comics right now is obviously the movies are such a huge priority, and it brings change to the comics, which can be very good and not so good. So I'm the type of person more inclined to take the not so good in order to get the good. For example, a guy like Ant-Man. You get characters like this. Ant-Man is now going to be brought into the forefront of things and play a bigger role in the comics. I like that. I think that's cool. Now, unfortunately, that means sometimes you got to get stuff like Magneto not being the parents to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Sometimes you're going to get changes like that. There may be forced. The whole Nick Fury thing, I'm over it at this point, but for anyone that doesn't know, Nick Fury was, and it's not a matter they changed his race. I don't care about that. It's just Nick Fury was, before all this, he was a white guy, and he's been the same guy, the eye patch guy with the brown hair with the gray streaks, whatever, for years, since like the 1960s or whenever he first showed up. And then they made the Ultimate Universe where they based his appearance off Samuel L. Jackson, which is a whole nother universe. And so that's what they picked for the movie, which was a great idea. I don't think that was a bad decision at all. But then what they did is to make it more like the movie, they revealed that Nick Fury had a son whose name I don't remember. It was Joe something. Had a son, and this guy doesn't realize he's Nick Fury's son. And it goes through this whole thing where suddenly there's all these villains want to kill him or something, and then he ends up losing an eye about it, and he finds out Fury's his dad and whatever, and then he adopts Fury's name and takes a position at S.H.I.E.L.D, and Fury ends up retiring and leaving, and this guy now becomes Nick Fury Jr., and it's, obviously someone who looks a bit more like Samuel L. Jackson. So it's just like, oh, well, he secretly had a son who's now taking over because now he's retiring. Now, Original Sin happened, and I thought that was really interesting from Nick Fury's perspective, and it changed him in a lot of ways, the old Nick Fury. And now he's in a whole nother role that's very interesting to me. But it's just it's certain things like that, Sometimes they're gonna force stuff, but then sometimes you're gonna get really good stuff, Like I said, like with Ant-Man being pushed up to the forefront. Anyone who likes Deathlock now, or Deathlock, sorry, not Deathlock, Deathlock, not the metal band, Deathlock. Now has a new ongoing series because he appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And speaking of, that's a good transition. S.H.I.E.L.D. #1 was the only comic to come from Marvel. The only comics that came out this week from the big two. DC had their normal weeklies, Batman Eternal and all that stuff. Marvel only had one comic come out, which was S.H.I.E.L.D. #1. I read it, obviously, because it was the only thing. I'm realizing now my rundown I wrote S.H.I.E.L.D., but anyways, that's irrelevant. S.H.I.E.L.D. #1. It's a pretty good series. I think it's going to be really fun. It's got one of my favorite writers in all of comic books, Mark Waid, who writes Daredevil. Again, my favorite series, my favorite character. But Mark Waid is fantastic. He's writing S.H.I.E.L.D. now, and it's what the show could be if they had a limited budget and unlimited means. They can put in any character they want, and each issue is going to have awesome guest stars and different adventures like that. So it's really something they haven't really done much of, but it's almost like a journey through the Marvel Universe. Every week you're hitting a different corner of it. You're going to different worlds. You're seeing different things. This one, it had Heimdall falling down to Earth and getting infected, and some guy steals his sword and becomes almost like a god himself, and they have to take him down, and they end up teaming up with Valkyrie and Black Knight, and you get all these guest stars like that. And next week you got Miss Marvel, who's really becoming a fan favorite. The Kamala Khan, the Inhuman Miss Marvel. Obviously, the old Miss Marvel is Captain Marvel now. But anyways, so it's really interesting. It's going to be fun to see, and like I said, I'm a sucker for anything Mark Waid does. I might even read the new Archie comics because Mark Waid is about to become the writer for Archie. But we'll see. I might not go that far. But speaking of, I brought up DC has their weekly comics. Marvel now wants to get into that fray, and they will do that starting this Wednesday. Marvel has 3 new #1s. I'm going to be talking about them next week along with whatever else comes out that's good. #1, as I've been saying all episodes, is Ant-Man #1. I will. You can be sure I'll be there first in line to make sure I pick up that. Then we have Wolverines, which is going to be focused on sort of a team, I guess, kind of. Sabretooth, X-23, Mystique, Lady Deathstrike, and Wolverine's revived dead son, Daken. Them sort of fighting, trying to protect his remains, because obviously they can be cloned and all these terrible things could happen. And it's going to start all this a war in his name, and it looks like it's going to be a big series. And Charlie Soule has been doing a lot with it. But before it comes out, if you want to read the necessary material, you're going to want the Wolverine, the Logan Legacy. It's a 7-part thing. And then the Weapon X program. That I want to say 4 issues of that's been out, and 5. I think the 5th one comes out Wednesday. So you would technically read that right before Wolverines. But Wolverines is going to be interesting. I mean, I'm the most excited to see about Sabretooth here. The all new Sabretooth. See how he's going to work out as a man of honor now, regretting the killings he's done before. I think that's the part I'm most interested about. It's not just, oh, well, I'm good now. It's like you're a good person now, and you think back, suddenly you have a conscience, and suddenly you think back on all the bad things you've done. And just to see how the toll that's going to take on him and what effect it's going to have. And the other all-new series is Unbeatable Squirrel Girl #1. Again, that's another person I think I'd put under the fan favorite column. Squirrel Girl, a mutant with squirrel-like powers. I think she can communicate with them, too. And she's got her partner. I don't remember what her partner's called. I know her first one was Monkey Joe. But I don't remember what her current squirrel crime fighting partners. She at one point she was a member of the Great Lakes Avengers and then Great Lakes Initiative, and now she's finally her own character. She was in New Avengers actually for a while. The old, I think it was Bendis series of New Avengers. She was the babysitter for Luke Cage and Jessica Jones' baby. So now she's all grown up and off to college. So I'll find out next week how Squirrel Girl... And the biggest thing about Squirrel Girl is why it's unbeatable is there's all these things that are considered canon to the comics. She's constantly underestimated because she's a joke, Squirrel Girl. And it's because people underestimate her that she always tends to win. She has beaten Doom. She's beaten MODOK. She's beaten Fin Fang Foom. You can name it. And she's probably beat the crap out of him at some point. Again, that's unbeatable Squirrel Girl, along with Wolverines and Ant-Man. That stuff I'm going to be breaking down in next week's show. I'm going to be talking about the Ant-Man trailer. I'm going to analyze every piece of that with a fine-tooth comb. I'm going to shrink down with some pin particles and just getting all the nooks and crannies, and we're going to talk about that next week, along with a bunch of other fun stuff. So thanks so much for tuning in, and it's going to be an awesome 2015, you guys. I'm excited, and until we meet again, I am Eric. Thank you for listening to The Comic Book Nerd.